Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Farming Simulator 25 map guide. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Vierbach. But before that, this video is brought to you by Squiggy486 and Patrick Coinier. Thank you for being farm barons. So the Vierbach map you can find it at the farmingsimulator.com website or the in-game downloadable content menu, and as of the 1.0 release, this map is available for all platforms. Now this is kind of an interesting map, because the way it's set up, it's really set up for a competitive multiplayer, but I think it falls short a little bit in its overall execution, and we'll talk about those areas in a little bit. But this map does have some required mods, so let's talk about those first. This map actually has 5 required mods. They are the diesel pallet, the garden plot, storage pallets, carpenter old pallets and bale storage, and the Dutch shed pack. If we factor in the size of the mods and the map itself, we're looking at a total download size of 400 megabytes. Now let me read you the description. Welcome to Vierbach. This map contains 136 plots of land, 76 fields including 4 forests, 4 small farms without farmhouses which are still under construction. A caveat to that, I'll get to that in a moment, various purchasing stations for animal feed, consumables such as 2 warehouses, sales outlets, BGA, vehicle dealer, livestock dealer, bale and pallet storage, production facilities, 4 collectibles, they're golden apples, if you can find them, and the map is precision farming ready. More on that in a minute. Settings and rules for guidance are as follows. So again, this map is ideally set up for a 4-way multiplayer in a competitive kind of gameplay, and the map author kind of outlines some suggested gameplay settings here and some suggested rules with respect to this gameplay. Now, since this map is available for all platforms, there's no custom scripts included, so therefore some of the things that he's mentioning are going to have to be kind of good faith or just general rules that everyone agrees to abide by, as opposed to there being strict scripts in place to enforce what is happening. Suggested start modes are start from scratch, hardcore mode, where you start with $500,000 and a $500,000 credit. I guess he means $500,000 debt is what I would assume he really means there. Hard economy, farmland must be purchased from the starting capital, and you don't start out with any vehicles other than the ones included in the map. Or farm manager mode, which is going to be start from 0 again, start from scratch, with 1 million capital and 0 debt. Normal to hard economy, farmland must be purchased with the starting capital, and again, there's no starting vehicles other than what's included in the map. He suggests that each team can choose 2 additional mods, but excessive productions and vehicles and attachments are going to be excluded from that. DLCs can be excluded, again, with the agreement of the teams. The rules of play suggested are from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., speed of 1x or 5x, from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 30x. But again, there's no scripts in place here, so the clock isn't just going to jump suddenly to 30x at 7 p.m., unless you're on PC. Then there's a mod for that. Upon agreement between the teams, night may be skipped or time adjusted. Each team may only accept 1 mission. Missions may be accepted on all fields. Helpers, each team can have 1 helper. As far as the fields go, each team may only purchase fields or properties on their own given island. Once all fields and plots of the team have been purchased, it's permitted to purchase additional fields or plots on other islands. Forest plots may not be cleared or resold without reforestation, and at least 100 new trees must be planted before the sale. Shops and sell outlets may not be built on the team's island, and production facilities and stables may be built. With respect to bridges, it's going to be illegal to cross the bridge when the barrier is up. There are bollards that will extend up over the bridge when it is closed. It's open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The map author is suggesting that should someone drive over the bridge and go over those bollards when it's closed, then they need to transfer $10,000 to each of the other teams as a fine. If you do that more than once, well, then it's going to be $20,000 to each team for each occurrence. But again, there aren't scripts in place, so you're going to have to do that manually. Farmland ID 77 may be purchased for emergencies, but must be returned immediately after the problem is resolved. So Farmland 77 is going to be the central hub. We're going to talk about the issue with respect to this here in a little bit. There is a soccer field on the map, and you can play the soccer game, and the winner will receive $10,000 from the loser. But again, that has to be manually transferred. Each farm has a tractor, trailer, and side-by-side. Those are not owned by the farm, they're owned by the map. And they're set up such that anyone can use any of them. Not necessarily the best setup, in my opinion, for a competitive multiplayer. With all that covered, let's jump back over here to the map. Now, I have this loaded up in a local multiplayer session. So, we're going to talk about this because I feel that this is really intended for multiplayer. Now, you could load this up in single player, and if you did, you would have a wardrobe trigger about in this location, and then there would be a sleep trigger also somewhere around this facility. I just don't recall at the moment. Now let's come out here and talk about our quad bikes. Since we have this loaded up using the multiplayer option, we have 4 side-by-sides, again, 1 for each farm. But in theory, regardless of which farm you're in, you're going to be able to use any 4 of these, or any one of the 4. Should you load this map up in single player and not choose the multiplayer option, then you'll have 2 quad bikes here as opposed to 4. But everything else pretty much is going to be how we're going to see it in multiplayer, in single player. So we might as well just show it to you here in multiplayer. Now let's jump over here into the menus and we can take a look at the PDA. Farmland ID 77 is going to be the central hub. Well, you're going to have to buy that for $4,800,000. If you have $4,800,000, I've got to think that maybe you don't have an emergency because you've got enough money, in theory, to resolve whatever your issues are. But if that not be the case, you could buy this land if you had that money. Should you wish to sell the land, you're not able to because you get a pop-up saying there are placeables on this land, and therefore you have to sell the placeables before you can sell the land. And at that point, you're not returning the land back how you got it. So that's kind of broken. And I'm not really sure, but I think maybe the map author had some mods in place that may have allowed him to sell the land, even if those buildings are in place. And I just don't know if those mods are available for consoles. Now, with respect to the individual islands, we have 4 islands on this map, and all 4 are exactly identical, except they are rotated 90 degrees from each other. On this, though, since this map is listed as being precision farming compatible, I figured we would have a custom soil map such that each farm had the exact same soil type for each of the fields. That's not necessarily the case because we're looking at a generic soil map from the precision farming mod for this map. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like with respect to each of these 4 islands. Not all the islands are created equal. We can see the 2 islands to the north have substantially more sandy loam and loam than the islands to the south. The islands to the south have substantially more loamy sand than the islands to the north. We know that there is less yield on loamy sand than loam, and less yield on silty clay than loam, and therefore, well, each island is not necessarily created equal with respect to precision farming. I would suggest probably not playing with precision farming on this map because of this fact. That's why I think really if we were going to have a custom soil map where each island was its own soil map, was identical, then there would be an even playing field. Now this map does have all the standard crops available to us in Farm Sim 25, and if we do have Highlands fishing, we'll also have access to the onions. If we come back here, you do note we need to create farms before we can do anything. Let's go ahead and build out a few. And let's go ahead and just join one of those particular farms. And now that we've joined those farms, we see we have a lot more menu options. You see our cursor has changed to reflect the color of the farm that we are now joined in, but these 4 quad bikes are the same color because they're not owned by us. But what it means is I can get into any of them. And I can make use of any of them. So what's that mean for competitive multiplayer? Well, any team could get in and do anything with the other team's machinery. Because not only do we have 4 quad bikes, we also have at each farm a tractor and a trailer. And since each farm can enter and use any of the farm or the default map equipment, that means that anyone can use anyone else's tractor and trailer or sabotage their tractor and trailer and who knows what else. So what I would really have liked to have seen, because I've seen this on other multiplayer centric maps, typically they're for PC, so maybe there's an issue with making it all platform and having all this stuff pre-set up. I would like to have seen the multiplayer version of this map to have had 4 farms pre-built. And each of these farms pre-establish which island they basically were to be working. So let's say island 1 was up here for farm 1, farm 2, farm 3, and farm 4. And therefore, farm 4's tractor would be this color because it's tied to farm 4. And only people in farm 4 could use it. Farm 3's tractor would again be tied to farm 3 and would be color coded to farm 3. That would make more sense to me in order to make this again a more true to competitive multiplayer. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, with respect to farms, well, we don't own any farmland in any mode, even in single player. We have 4 farms all set up identical. They are at farmland ID 85, $73,376. Farmland ID 88, $74,592. Farmland ID 87, $75,008. And Farmland ID 76, $74,432. So depending on which farm you buy, well, they're still going to all look the same. In addition, all the fields on each quadrant are the same, and each quadrant also has the same productions, with all the main sell points being here in the middle. And in addition to the sell points here in the middle, we have 4 grain mills also located here in the middle, and they can be bought independent of the farmland. So let's jump and take a look. We don't have any starting vehicles, but we do have some mods and things associated with the map. We have the carpenter old pallets and bale storage. That's going to be a required mod, so that is listed here. We have the diesel pallet mod, and we have the storage pallets mod. Those are again part of the required mods. And we have the custom equipment or things related to an armchair, sofa, and sofa bed that are tied to this map. So we can buy a pallet of wood logs. We can buy an armchair, sofa, and sofa bed. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh, cool. This is like a sleep trigger or a farmhouse trigger, right? That's what I would have thought. Well, we'll visit those in a minute. We have a modified ABI water trailer that's set up to hold all types of liquids, including energy and methane gas. We've got then the 550 version of the ABI trailer. We have the MKS 32 and MKS 8, again, all set up for all the various liquids and gases. We've got a modified Amazon ZATS 3200 spreader for lime and fertilizer. We have a modified Amazon ZS or ZGTS 10001 lime and fertilizer spreader. We've got the modified John Deere Series 3650 tractor. We've got a cultivator here, which is a Power Harrow, it looks like. We've got the NKS Power Harrow and Cedar combo that's also been set up here. We've got a modified Kloss round bale wrapper. We've got a modified Dutz Far Series 6 tractor, Kloss Axion 870-880 tractor, and the Landini Series 7 Robo 6. We also have a modified EcoMat plow, and we have a modified Ropa vegetable harvester, and harvester header, and those are set up for carrots, red beets, and parsnips. Now let's jump back over here to our central hub, and specifically, let's jump over here to this forklift, because this is going to be our vehicle shop. We have our dealer trigger. Located here, we have a lime buy point located there, and around the corner is where we're going to find the things that we buy. And, well, you can see we have our armchair, our sofa, and our sofa couch. Well, we can lay, but we don't have a sleep trigger. Or we can sit in our sofa or our armchair. But as best as I can tell, that's about all they're for. You have to be able to pick them up and move them around. But there's no distinctive triggers associated with them. I think they're just for fun. We have our shop trigger over here. And of course, we now know where our vehicles and machinery are going to spawn. Let's get a little bit of altitude. So we've got our farm shop there. We have our soccer field. Kind of the map central. This is where we spawn in at. With our quad bikes. And then we have the Southern Islands, the Northern Islands. And let's come back here to the PDA. With respect to our crop counter, we have the generic crop counter that is part of Farm Sim 25, available on this map. There are no animals pre-placed at any of the 4 islands. There are contracts available on farmlands that we do not own. With respect to productions, well, we have 4 BGA plants, 1 on each island. We have 4 carpentry shops, 1 on each island. They are able to make bakery cases, barrels, bathtubs, buckets, dog houses, empty pallets, furniture, wood, wooden boxes for cheese, and wooden shelves. Each farm island is going to have 2 garden plots and 2 other garden plots. So we have a total of 4 garden plots on each island, 2 of each variety. We have a grain mill, again, on the central hub, but there's 4 of those in theory, 1 for each farm, or 1 for each competitive team. And then each island also has a tree nursery. With respect to sell points, I counted up 6 different sell points scattered around the map, excluding, of course, the 4 grain mills. We don't have any starting vehicles on the map when we started up, and we do have 4 collectibles. I wasn't able to find the collectibles, but there are supposedly 4 golden apples somewhere on this map. Let's kind of extend out from the hub. At each bridge, we have our flour mill. We have a diesel station. And then, of course, inside we have several sell points. Let's come back to the PDA. We have access to a warehouse also here. So we have a dump point here. We have a bale sell point there. We have a grain sell point there. Here we have the warehouse buy point and the pallet spawn point for that warehouse. We have our warehouse buy point there as well. Another dump point. And that is basically the central hub. Now we're just going to pick a random island because they're all the same and show you what the islands are going to look like. Each access is going to be limited to the bridge, and in the middle of the bridge we have these bollards that will extend up when the bridge is closed. Just inside the bridge We do have access to our sawmill that, again, we could choose to purchase. So we have a wood point, we have a wood cell trigger there. We're going to have our pallet spawn point and our dump point for various other products. Our tree nursery, or our forestry plot, production is going to be located over here. And while each of these are on our island, we will have to, of course, buy them in order to make use of them. Further up the road, we're going to come to a garden plot. Further around the road here, we're going to have our farm buildings, including our silo. And remember, each has a tractor and a trailer associated with it. Further around the road, we're going to come to what should be a buildable farmhouse. But if we buy this land, which I will go ahead and do right now, you'll see that we should own all of this land. But if we come here, let's make sure we're well out of the trigger. Let's come back in the trigger. You'll see that we don't get the pop-up that tells us what is required in order to build out this farmhouse. Well, this is farmhouse number 3 under the constructibles. It's going to be this particular farmhouse right here. And I do know by looking at the XML that we're looking at needing 5,500 wooden beams, 12,500 long planks, 6,500 planks, 29,500 units of cement, 15,500 units of cement block, 4,500 units of roof plates, and 6,500 units worth of furniture. But I'm concerned that since this isn't popping up, that we own this, and therefore we don't have the listing of what is required, that when it comes time to actually build this, we're not going to be able to. And if I go to just try to randomly place anything here on this land, you know, it says we can, but this constructible is not picking up that we own it by buying the land. So I think that is a little bit of an error with respect to the XML coding. Coming back around our island, we're going to come to this location. And here we have 2 more garden plots that can be purchased. And then we have a little bale storage building. And we also have access to the other garden plot. And then we have the BGA. Remember, each farm has this BGA available to it. And each farm has 3 drive-through bunkers. In order to own the BGA, we're going to have to buy it for $562,000. And then we'll come back around, and there we have access to our bridge that again is going back to the central hub. Each island also has another bridge, which is going to connect it to one of the other islands. And again, these are going to be closed off with bollards or drop gates. Like I said, each island is identical of the others. So if you've seen one, you've seen them all. And I want to come back here now and just buy this central hub just to show you what happens. So let's go ahead and pick this up. I went and added some money, so we do have enough money to buy this now. We now own the central hub and the waterways around the hub. But if we just go to sell it, well, now I feel a little confused because it let me do that. It wouldn't let me do that when I was joined a different farm. Going to this farm. And let's add some money. Now, what happens? There you go. You cannot sell this land while you still own placeables on it. But I don't own any of these. Buy. Buy. It still asks me to buy it. It asks me to buy it. I don't own any placeables. So why are you telling me that I own it? Other than farm ID 1 is the first farm. And therefore, I think there's some little bug with respect to if farmland ID 1 owns this, you're not going to be able to sell it. As I mentioned, for example, in single player, there you have your wardrobe trigger. If you do start this up in single player, you do have your sleep trigger here. If you do start this up in single player as well. Now, I'd love to know what you all think down in the comments below with respect to this map. I do wish there was a little bit different setup, maybe a little bit more testing and evaluation with respect to like this central island, because farm ID 1, if you buy it, you're stuck with it. Seems like other farmlands can buy it and sell it at will, but farmland ID 1 is kind of stuck. I would like to have seen each of these farmlands set up in multiplayer by default. So if you did fire this game up in multiplayer, all 4 farms were already set up in the configuration, and maybe each farm had ownership of one of these starting farm areas, and therefore each farm also had ownership of the corresponding tractor and trailer and one of the quad bikes here on the central island. I don't know if that's a limitation of console or it's just something that the map author didn't set up or didn't know how to set up. Until next time, happy farming.